once again, good morning, Sarah, and a big thanks for giving me the opportunity for this conversation. For me, the purpose of these conversations is really to learn and not to talk as much as I usually do. So thanks a lot. Maybe before we start talking content and going into the future of agriculture, could you give us a quick, even though you are well known, who you are and where you are, and maybe what is your big challenge on your farm today as an appetizer for the conversation?
Okay, thank you for the invitation. So my name is Sarah. I am a farmer. I live in the south of France. I took over the family farm in 2010, and I run today 100 hectares where I do triticale for seeds. I do also vetch for seeds, cox food for seeds. I also have buckwheat and wheat, and this buckwheat and wheat, it's for flour that I sell to restaurants. And the particularity we have on the farm is that we are in conservation agriculture since 1980, which means we haven't plowed and haven't touched the fields for 40 years now. Wow. Concerning the challenges we have on the farm, the challenges will be how to keep on producing a lot of food. And at the meantime, we want to optimize all the inputs we use on the farm, such as fertilizer and pesticides, for example.
So you're the perfect person for me to talk to. Thank you very much. And if we go into an outlook, today's everybody talks about climate, about carbon sequestration, about the role of agriculture in climate change. But as you say, the conversation goes back longer and it's broader. It's about the whole environmental impact of agriculture, about pesticides, about water use. So if you look back in your country and look at agriculture, what do you think has changed maybe in the last 10 years? I mean, so, you're a leader, but, yes. But on general, what has changed?
In the last 10 years, I would say that society today wants to look at agriculture and the way we are producing food. They want us to minimize the impact on the environment. And the other thing is the climate change. Because for us farmers, we live the climate change. We are the first people to face this change. For example, by the past, we had 4 seasons. We had winter, autumn, spring, and summer. And today we have only 2 seasons. We have the rainy season and the dry season, which means that we have to improve our practices in order to be more resilient if we look at this climate change.
And if you say we, the farmers, I mean, you are the new generation of farmers. Are the farmers on the same page? Do you think they are all moving, or do you think it's a long way to go for agriculture as a whole?
It's not a long way to go. It's all the farmers are concerned. We can be organic. We can grow fruits, vegetables. We can have animals, or we can grow wheat or whatever you want. All the farmers are concerned with the climate change. And if everybody, not only the farmers, but if also the breeding company, the chemistry society, and everybody wants to go in a good way, we can do it. But it's a big movement, and everybody is concerned, not only the farmers. And if we know where we want to go, then we will go there. But at the moment, I see that there is no good goal, not particular, not a straight goal where we want to go. But if everybody knows we want to go on the moon, everybody will do something to go on the moon. At the moment, there is no specific goal.
So if you can define the moon, if it's Sarah Singla to say the moon looks like this, what does the moon look like? What do you think would need to change in agriculture on top of what has already changed in the last couple of years?
The moon for me would be to produce and protect the environment. And we know today that we can do both of them, because sometimes the society thinks if we produce food, we will destroy the environment. No, we can do both. We can produce food while restoring the environment, and we can produce food while protecting the biodiversity. We can produce food while we are mitigating the climate change. So it means we can do both. And the goal would be that I want to produce on my farm, but I also want to restore the environment in order to let something in a better shape than what it was when I took over the farm. If I am a farmer today, it's because the previous generation on the farm did a very good job. So my goal will be to improve the environment and the soil conditions, for example, in order to let a good farm for the next generations.
Is that a matter of having the right technologies available, or is it a matter of having, or are these technologies already existing and it's a matter of costs? What is needed?
We need two technologies. We need the low cost and the high cost. So to me, the low cost technology will be to have a lot of knowledge in agronomy, to know how the soil works, what crop should I grow, and how can I do a good rotation on the farm. So to me, it's the low high put, I would say, and the high input would be all the precision farming. Because with precision farming, we will be able to put the right dose at the right place at the right moment. But we need both of them. And if we want to use precision farming, we will also have to use agronomy. One without the other wouldn't work, to my mind.
I mean, I'm working for Bayer, and we are working on the next generation of crop protection, pesticides, and also seeds and traits, and also digital. I always perceive there's this debate which is going on is about here's organic, and this is perceived as very, very good, and then there's conventional, which is perceived as cheap, effective, but kind of bad. I'm struggling a bit because I can see good tools in both corners and bad tools in both corners. And if we would have a conversation which is more looking at the outcome of using those tools rather than at the origin, where do they come from? Is that insecticide extracted from a plant and thereby organic, and the other one is synthesized in a lab and synthetic is bad? For me, and I confess I'm a chemist, I have a little sympathy for also synthesizing something. But could you imagine we get into that more outcome-based perspective rather than always being in this ideological corners, including our industry? Do you think that move would already help?
I agree with you. I mean, we have to look at the results, not at the means. And today, if we oppose organic, conventional, or whatever you want, we are not in a positive way. We are just looking at to divide farmers between them. Whereas if we look at the outcomes, I would say that organic farmers are like conventional farmers, are like everybody. We want a seed which can grow without pesticide, which can be resistant to drought and whatever we want. So we should aim at the goal, not at the means, and not to oppose the farmers between them.
Yeah, that's what I think, but I think it's very difficult to transport this message into a broader public, because it's much easier to distinguish between organic and conventional rather than look at outcomes, right? That's more complicated in a way.
Yes, because it's about marketing also, because we know that maybe when we sell organic products, we will sell a higher price, so people will make money, but with organic, we don't guarantee a good result. Maybe people haven't used any pesticides, but the food we will eat will have some disease on it. So it's not because I am organic that the food will be good. It's once again, it's about the goal and the results. And if people understand that, they will ask for producing a better food. Because even if we produce more on the same area, it means I will let more wild space for wild animals. Whereas if I produce only 4 tons per hectare compared to 9 tons per hectare, it means that I will have to use 2 hectares to produce the same amount of food. And if I use 2 hectares compared to 1 hectare, I will destroy the biodiversity. So we will have to do an intensification, but it will be an ecological intensification on the farm. And when I talk about ecologic, to me, it's not an ideology, it's a science. Ecology is a science. So it means we will have to use the maximum of all the agroecological inputs and system in order to replace them on the farm with this goal, which is to produce food at the end, and edible food. If farmers use sometimes fungicide or whatever we want, it's because we have the goal to produce an edible food. If I don't use this medicine, maybe the food I will produce won't be edible and goes to the bin. So it means I haven't done my job, because my job is to produce good food.
What I sometimes perceive as almost like a schizophrenic conversation is that on the one hand, people want to have this kind of super grown food with all the best tools for them, but then they go to the supermarket and they are not willing to spend a cent more. Maybe in France it's different because French people have a higher appreciation of food than many others, but in general, I think consumers, they want to have the best quality at the super lowest price, and they close their eyes when it comes to discussing it on the real matter. So mistakes we made, I think. Why didn't we manage to get that conversation really to them? What's coming in our way that we get this conversation that we have now out into a broader space? Seems like people don't want to hear that.
I agree with you. And when we have this conversation, we should have this conversation with consumers. Because today the society wants farmers to change. But if the society doesn't change its habits concerning, for example, when I go to buy food, if the consumer doesn't change, we won't match at the end. Whereas if the consumer says, we want farmers to improve their recipe and the way they produce, and the consumer accept to pay more for the food, we will do it. Because at the moment, the food cost nothing. When you look, if you go back to the past, by the past, we use maybe 80% of our budget in the food, but we were buying carrots, sugar, salt. It was raw products that we were going to transform in the kitchen. Today, when you go to the supermarket, the budget you spend in your food will be 8% of the total budget. But on the 8% you spend, if you look at the price of the food, it's only 1%. Because when you buy something at the supermarket, you will pay for the transport, you will pay for the electricity, you will pay for the marketing, you will pay for the thing which is around the product. But the product itself, the raw matter itself, it's nothing. It's only 1%. So if we farmers, we are the first concerned about reducing the pesticide or whatever, but we accept to improve our practices, and we need at the same time that consumers accept to pay more, because otherwise we won't be farmers anymore in the next time, in the 10 years.
Yeah, I agree. And of the very already low budget people spend on food, afterwards they throw half of it away. If it's bread, only a certain portion is used. When it gets a bit dry, you buy a new one. And yeah, it's probably one of the big issues is that the price doesn't match the reality of farmers, the willingness. And then if we talk broader, and if we want people to really incentivize biodiversity measures on the farm, there would need to be additional income streams. That's something which we are thinking about all the time. And carbon is a nice vehicle, because carbon is now in everybody's mind, and companies have made those commitments to become carbon neutral. So there's a market for people who can put carbon into the soil. There's not yet a market for people who can increase biodiversity. There's not a valuation. I don't know how we can get there. Maybe you have a good idea. How can we get people to, or companies, or societies, or politicians to pay for biodiversity as a value?
At the moment, we look at that, but about being paid for biodiversity and carbon storage or whatever, but we should be careful, because at the end, if you pay me for biodiversity and carbon, I won't produce food anymore. So to me, to produce biodiversity and to store carbon will be a consequence of the way I am producing food, but it's not a goal. I know a researcher who said, if you want to be paid for the carbon you have stored in the soil, you can put a lot of tires on the field, plow very deep. So it means you will have increased the carbon storage in your soil because the tires, the car tires, are fossil oil. So if you pay me for that, at the end, I will have a lot of money for the carbon I have stored in the field, but I haven't produced any kilos of wheat, and you will die because you have nothing to eat. So to me, it's first thing we produce, and at the meantime, we have more biodiversity. We will store carbon, but we will do both of them. And it's not one or the other, it's both of them. And to measure the biodiversity, the first biodiversity is under our feet. It's the soil.
Yeah.
The fact I am not disturbing the soil, I will protect all the earthworms. I will protect the bacteria, the fungi, and whatever. So, as a consequence, we'll have also a good water, a clean water. The fact we have cover crops in the field during the summer when it rains, it means I will have more flowers. The fact I have more flowers, I will also have a lot of bees and other animals which will come on my farm. But you see, it's a consequence. I have biodiversity because I am doing cover crops.
Makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. You need to forgive me because I'm a chemist. I need to ask another question around pesticides. I've been doing pesticides for a long time. We have been going through a severe shift in our company. While like 20 years ago, we were looking only for super effective pesticides. And then, of course, we knew regulatory hurdles need to be passed, but they were not the decision criteria from a benefit perspective of a pesticide. Today is different. We look for pesticides which come with, of course, they must work. Otherwise, it makes no sense for you to use them. But they must come with a very decent safety profile at the same time. So this is today seen as a benefit to have that type of safety profile. But still, it's like, I think in all our industries, we want a crop protection product to be effective over a long time because for the convenience for you. Ideally used as a seed treatment, and then, it protects the whole season. That comes along with the requirement that it needs to be fairly stable. And then it stays for a while. And I'm under the impression that, there are societal debates around pesticides from the pollinator perspective and the neonics and the bees, all these type of things. But I think the biggest fear is that those pesticides, you can't feel them, you can't smell them, you can't taste them, and they are perceived as very toxic and they stay forever. Like, this is what it's almost, and now I'm of course exaggerating, like radioactivity. It's like a threat which you cannot control. And under this lens, and with, you mentioned it, digital agriculture coming in, precision application coming in, could you see that also the way crop protection is developed can go away from those protective approach, at least partly, into a much more like you use it at the right time in the morning, and then it's doing the job, and 1 week later, it's gone.
Yes.
It would be a complete mindset change also for us, because what we are so proud of is that we have found those products which work a long time, while like 40 years ago you had those contact products. Do you think it makes sense to think differently again?
Depends on the consumer. If I have a product on the seed which protect the plants until the harvest, I would say the society will be happy because we won't go in the field with the sprayer.
Yes.
But they will say, yes, there is a remnant, it stays. So they will complain. If we have the other product, which lasts only for three weeks or 4 weeks, it will be good because we know it will be destroyed. But it means that the society should accept that we are with the sprayer every 3 weeks in the fields. So it's more a discussion with the society, what the society wants today. Personally, I prefer something which stays until the harvest, because I know that my plants will be protected. And if we talk about neonics, the first reason why the bees are dying, it's not because of neonics, it's because they don't have anything to eat during the summer. Personally, on my farm, I work with a beekeeper. I have 60 hives on the farm, and he comes here, even if I use pesticides, because he knows that on my farm, I have flowers during the summer, and the bees have something to eat.
Mm.
If you don't use any pesticides, but you kill all the flowers, the bees will die.
Yeah, Sarah, I can tell you, I've been responsible for that Neonics in Bayer for a while. We are not the body who can talk about it. I mean, whatever I say as a Bayer employee about all the other challenges for having bees, varroa mites, and all the other diseases, but most important, as you say, lack of habitats, lack of food.
Yes.
I'm people don't listen, so it's very difficult. I think it's one of the bottom line messages from our conversation is technologies are basically there, and there might be shifts in technology, but what is most important is that in the end of the day, we get into an agreement with society what they want, and they need to understand the trade-offs of what they want.
And
Right?
the society should be coherent. I mean, should say, if they don't want neonics, so they ban also the neonics they have inside. Because when they don't want to have mosquitoes or whatever, they will use pesticides because they don't want mosquitoes during the summer. And sometimes the pesticides they will use for mosquitoes were banned for us, farmers. They've been banned maybe 10 years ago. So on one hand, I say, I don't want any pesticide in the field, but I use the same pesticide, even worse pesticide, in my house because I don't want any mosquitoes. So what do you want at the end? It's to be coherent or to have the same the same results for farmers and consumers. But don't say you can don't do that, but I can do it. You see?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, what they could argue is that the amounts are so much smaller if you use it in the house from a broader impact perspective. But on the other hand, I agree. Once again, missed opportunities from our side. I recall the Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro when there were athletes who didn't dare to go to Brazil because they were so scared of Zika.
Mm.
And you control Zika by using pyrethroids, and then everybody would do whatever is needed to have no single Zika or nor ever Mitch anywhere. And we were never able to explore that pathway of talking. So maybe that today when we say we acknowledge we want to reduce impact of pesticides, and that's a step which the industry took too long to say that we didn't even acknowledge that pesticides have an impact. Of course they have an impact. It's completely mad to deny that insecticides don't have a negative impact on the environment, which needs to be minimized. But maybe if we are more expressive about this, we can call out for that societal debate. That's what I really want. Bring people to the table and ask them what do you want? What do you want? I mean, you are a farmer, you can adopt different things, but it comes with a consequence. And if your profitability goes below the line, then you have to close your business. We can also change. We can produce organic pesticides if people only love this, but it all comes with a trade-off. And we were not able to bring this conversation across. That's sometimes so frustrating, right?
But still,
I don't know what we can do.
Yes, but still, if you do an organic pesticide, it's a pesticide.
Yes.
I mean, in nature, there are a lot of pesticides. You are chemistry. When you produce a pesticide, you will take one molecule in nature, you will mimic it, and you will produce it in a broad scale in order to help farmers. There are pesticides everywhere. If you know the black rot, I mean I think it's this name in English, but I'm not sure. The black rot, which is on the spikelet of the wheat, you eat that, you die, and it's a natural pesticide. So it's not a pesticide; it's everywhere.
It's a
But I am not
fusarium.
sure it's black rot. I'm not sure about the name because I know the name in French, but I don't know in English. But I mean there are pesticides everywhere, and it's not a black or white; it's gray. In the life, it's gray. It's not black or white.
Yeah. So it is, but the conversation always tends to go into black and white, and this is something which we need to maybe just understand also and accept to a certain extent. yeah, I mean, we have set targets for our company to reduce impact of pesticides, and I think we are on a fairly good trajectory to really deselect products with high toxicity to environment and to humans. I still feel it's not yet sufficient. For me, the biggest question is always, what do you need? That's why I want to have that conversation. That's why I asked, should we do, just contact fungicides again or contact insecticides? And the answer is very clear. This is so inconvenient for you with the tools you have today. Doesn't make actually a lot of sense. So how do we find the right balance? What do you need, and what are the biggest barriers for you? And how do we create value from having low environmental impact products? Could you see that there's a value at one point of time for a farmer if he can, or a certification scheme maybe, or something which is not designed on what tools are you using, but a certification scheme which is designed on what's the outcome of your work?
The first value I will see if I use less pesticide, it's in my pocket. Because if personally I use just one fungicide instead of 3 fungicides, I will save 2 applications, 2 sprays, so I will save money. I don't need any certification. And one more time, if we do a certification because we said, you haven't used any fungicide, what is the result at the end? One more time, we go to the means and not to the results. So yes, as we are farmers, we should also look at all the efforts we've made since 40 years. Maybe by the past we were using pesticide like that because it was cheap, or I don't know. Today, all the farmers are like a CEO, and they have to look at the cost of production. So we won't use herbicide, fungicide, pesticide inputs such as fertilizer like that because it costs money. And we have done a lot of efforts on the way we are using pesticide. We want to use less pesticide, but maybe it will be used with precision farming. If tomorrow I have a drone on the farm which look at where is the septoria, for example, I will put maybe only the fungicide on the plant which need a fungicide. But it means to have precision farming with that. And the fact we will improve the plant nutrition will also help to reduce the fungicide and the herbicide. The fact you have copper, zinc, silicium, and whatever, all the nutrients for the plant, we will have less disease compared to a plant which lacks of nutrients, and we will be very sensitive to disease.
When you say, I mean, digital will come. I mean, we talk in the big corporations always to ourselves and make assumptions on what farmers need. Of course, we have people who are in direct contact, but there are too many layers between headquarters and people in our company who have the contact to the farmer. And then we discuss business models, and we say, for example, that, I mean, in the past, we were a company selling products to you. Then we want to go being a company selling solutions to you. Sounds already much better because it's not just, insecticide and seed bugs. But then there's an idea that in one point of time, we could maybe we can guarantee your yield. We could actually sell the outcome to you. I like to compare it with the car wash, where we used to produce the soap for the car wash, but then if I go to the car wash, I don't ask for the soap. I want to have a clean car, and they can maybe buy the gold or the platinum program with extra tools. But then people say, yeah, but farmers, they want to be in super control of every single step. And if you have to go with an outcome model, which automatically reduces the input, as you say, even for us, if we would sell the outcome, the input would turn from a value to a cost driver for us, like it is for you. From a sustainability perspective, sounds nice. But could you imagine that you would be interested in something like this, that basically, like today, people go on Amazon and they buy the whole thing from Amazon and not like every single piece? Because if you move into a system like this, it always means you hand over some elements of control, right?
Yes.
What do you think? I'm just curious, what do you think about this vision that in the end you buy the program and it guarantees you an outcome? Is it just an economic calculation for you, if it makes sense?
You can buy a program, but I mean, I think that not all the farmers will say yes. Some farmers will say yes because they will say, okay, I don't mind, I will buy the program and I will do what people told me. When you will have farmers who want to decide by themselves, they won't buy the program. So it's not a question of is it good or not, it's more the difference between farmers.
Yeah.
The farmers who just want to drive the tractors, they will buy the program because they don't think. They will say, I will apply this product, this product, this product, without looking at the field if I need it or not. Whereas if you want to decide and if you want to apply the product at the right time at the right dose, it means you will have to be in the field to know, do I have to apply this fungicide or not? So it's a good idea, but to me, it will depend on the farmers you have in front of you.
Sure. I have to say, I would love to listen for hours to you because we need this calibration, reality check. Well, are we on the right tracks or not? I think we are heading in the right direction in many areas, but we need your constant feedback on what are we doing. Is this the right tool? Are we on the right concept here with outcome-based pricing, with developing new types of pesticides? So I'm super grateful. Sarah, if you have a final a wish for the year to where we close it, maybe come back in the reality back to 2021. Just to close that conversation, I hope there's going to be many more. What would be your wish for 2021?
For 2021, I wish to farmers a lot of success in their operation, because this year is quite complicated at the moment. We had a lot of frost last week. And in France, for example, a lot of vineyards have lost all the vine because of the frost. So it means we will have less wine, less fruits, and less vegetables. And now we see that maybe we are going to enter a drought period. So it means it will be difficult this year, but I wish a lot of success to all the farmers despite these conditions.
Yeah, that's a super closing, and I just follow your wish. I wish all your farmers exactly the same, and how they overcome those crises will bring the next wave of learnings back to us, and how we can help even better in the future. Sarah, thank you very much.
Thank
Super
you.
interesting. I wish you all the best and best of luck for your farm. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Klaus. Bye.